Folks, it's been a long time coming, but so happy to say welcome to Leafs Morning Take, Ryan Reaves. What's going on, Revo?
How we doing?
Fantastic. Here to promote a bit Death Row Hockey in the partnership with Snoop Dogg and his record label, Death Row Records. Can you tell us a bit about that first and foremost?
Yeah, it was just a little fun project. Snoop actually DM'd me when I was in when I was in New York. He wanted to make a shirt with, there's a picture of me fighting Foligno. And unfortunately, the league wouldn't release the picture, or Minnesota Sun or whoever it was wouldn't release the picture. Then I got traded to Mini, and I was like, I don't really want to release a picture with me fighting my boy on there. So we kind of scrapped that. And then his team hit me up a couple months ago with the picture we're using now, saying, "Hey, let's go back at this. We're going to launch Death Row Hockey. I'd love you to be part of it." So I said, "Yeah." I mean, I grew up on Snoop, so I wasn't turning that opportunity down.
Yeah, we know he's a big hockey fan too. What's it going to be? Is it an apparel lifestyle thing? Is it a brand? What are you guys looking down the road here?
Well, right now it's just a couple of us launched a T-shirt and a hoodie. You can get it on crooksandcastles.com. Crooks and Castles, I think. Sorry, crooksandcastles.com. Go to the Death Row Hockey area, and I think there's 3 or 4 of us on there right now. I don't know if he's dropped the other ones yet. And then I don't know where we're going to take it after, but yeah, it's a cool little project so far.
Do you remember the first time you met Snoop Dogg? It must have been like a pinch me moment, eh?
A little bit, I was telling my girl, like, I'm not a big celebrity. Everybody knows about me. I'm not a big celebrity guy. Like, I don't really care if you're, famous or whatever. I don't really know a lot of celebrity names. Like, if you showed me a movie and be like, who's that? I couldn't tell you. But having said that, I grew up on Snoop. Like, that was my, Biggie was my first album, and then Snoop Doggy Style was, that was in my tape deck constantly when I was younger. So yeah, meeting him was kind of cool. That was like the one guy. If I'd ever wanted to meet a celebrity, he would have been him. So check that one off.
Right on. Well, take it back to the beginning of the year here, Revo. You signed with the Maple Leafs. What was your experience like in the first year? Was it what you expected? And what was the ride like?
It was a roller coaster for me, honestly. You guys probably know it was. I thought I had a really good training camp. One of my better training camps, to be honest. And then first 2 games, thought I played well, and then all of a sudden, I just started eating dashes like it was my job, and it just I couldn't do anything about it. I'd step out on the ice, I eat a dash. Somebody toe pick, I eat a dash. A couple were my fault, and it just kind of snowballed from there. It was just a tough time for me, and when you're eating dashes like that, it's hard for a coach to trust you, whether it's your fault or not. And and then I had the injury. I was out for a while trying to get back in the lineup. But then when I came back in the lineup, I felt I played pretty well. Obviously the points weren't there, but I was back to playing physical, getting my fights, getting in people's faces, getting on the forecheck. I wasn't eating the dashes anymore. So it was I think a tale of 2 seasons for me, and hopefully it's more of the second half next year.
Yeah, we felt the same way, and naturally, I think like that's the next question is like, what clicked for you in the second half? For me, I really felt like you found your identity. I mean, pardon the pun, but you really had the dog in you on the fourth line. The forecheck was strong, and just the attention to detail was a bit better. But what clicked for you?
I don't know, honestly. It was maybe that break. I used that break after I got hurt, and once I was healthy, but I was still in IR. Like I really used that as a mini training camp, just kind of get back into shape and just work on things. While I had the opportunity. When I wasn't playing, I was doing the extra bag skates. I was going on early. I was staying out late, and just doing everything I can to make sure that when I did get an opportunity, I was ready. And then that Janmark broke his hand in practice and ended up getting back in for that Winnipeg game right before the All-Star break, and scored in that game. I think that was a big confidence boost, and then came back and just didn't really look back. Just kind of stuck with it, and maybe just a little meaner too in my game. I thought when I was eating those dashes, I was a little tentative in doing stuff because I didn't want to start getting in people's faces and then getting a penalty, and their power play scores or whatever it was. So I was maybe playing a little too tentative, especially for my game. And when I came back, I said, screw it. I'm back in people's faces. I'm back chirping. I'm back, playing real physical, getting my fights when I need to. And I think that just kind of helped my game.
For sure. You got the team's making a little bit of a change here, obviously, with the addition of Craig Berube. Have you talked to Craig? Obviously, some parallels in the style of game you guys have played. What's your thoughts on the upcoming season with him at the helm?
Yeah, I'm excited to play for him. Obviously, he likes the style I play, and obviously he played that style back then. But just not even that, but just hearing from guys that played for him in St. Louis, they love playing for him. They love the energy he brought. He loved the messages he brought to the room, and I think it's just going to be a good breath of fresh air for the boys here. And yeah, I'm excited to get to work with him.
Fighting in general is something we obviously talk about a lot on this show. Rosie, if you do, did you guys have any run-ins together, by the way? Got to ask that. Did you?
Me and
We,
Berube?
we never
No,
really
you and
did.
Rosie.
Oh, no. No, I don't think so.
No, it just never really came about. Different conferences and whatnot, I guess, for the most part. But yeah, one of those guys just never came across, and way she goes sometimes, I guess. Eh?
Yeah, there's a couple, like, there's weird ones, like me and Luch never fought. We
Yeah.
still have never fought. And, like, to me, that's like one of the weirdest ones, because we've had games where somebody's got buried, and it's like, okay, well, maybe it's gonna happen. Just for some reason, never happened. So yeah, I don't know. There's just those weird ones where sometimes you don't have a run in with a guy, and it just doesn't happen.
The one I wanted to ask you about, Revo, was the Rempe tilt, man, because I felt like we were building that up on this podcast for like a week, and then I'm like, me and Rosie were talking about it. I think we were like trying to figure out if we're going to bet on it happening. There was odds out there for a fight, but it ends up happening, and the timing is what got me. It happened late in that game, didn't it?
Yeah, beginning of the third,
Yeah.
closer to the end of the third, middle of the third.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of cool to see, because with all the talk of fighting's leaving hockey and all this, and then all of a sudden for a week there was no talk about the game. It was is Reaves going to fight Rempe? That's all it was, and it was kind of cool to see that build up to it. Now, with all that build up, we go in the first period. It's like, all right, maybe we just get this over with. So I asked him, and he said no, fair enough. And so we play the rest of the period, play the second period. I think it was I don't know if it was at the end of the second or beginning of the third, where he buried Labushkin and hurt him. And then I didn't have a shift against him for a while. And then we had a shift later in that third. I was like, hey, you buried Bush. Like, now you got to answer the bell. And he kind of looked at it. I'm assuming his coach was telling him not to do it because he had a bunch in a row there. Yeah. And he kind of looked at the bench and got the okay. And that was that.
Well, that was kind of interesting, watching him navigate that whole storm that was happening around him. He came in on Broadway, made a lot of noise, had a lot of support behind him. What was your take on it, being a guy that's done that job, been in the league for as long as you have? Young kid comes in, gets in a few scraps. I mean, people were going bananas about him having like 5 scraps in like 2-3 weeks or something like that. And I'm like, fuck, guys do that in a weekend back in the day, as you know. Were you kind of looking around at this guy going, buddy, pay your dues before you become this guy? Or were you pumped that it was good for the game, good for your role, and showcased what that can be in potential?
Well, I mean, maybe a little bit of both. I thought it was great for the game. It's good for me. It's good for my job for sure. When you got new guys coming in, and teams are going to be looking for some protection. So yeah, it's good for guys like me and our jobs. On the other hand, if he's just kind of stepping in and trying to ask everybody to go, and all the heavyweights, yeah, you got to pay your dues. But he wasn't going about it in a bad way. He was there's maybe a couple of hits that he that got away from him that maybe you don't want to start with that reputation. But we had a little chat in the box, and he seems like a nice kid. He doesn't seem like some idiot just running around trying to goon everybody up. Like, the little chat we had, he seemed like a nice, humble kid. So good for him, man. Like, it's hard breaking in the league doing that job, and good for him for doing it.
Well, there's a bunch of tough fuckers in this league. Like, even Arbor Jackai is another guy in your division in Montreal. I was pissed off on your behalf in the first game. I think you scrapped him, but he sort of like fell in the net. And did you go home after that? I don't think you did after that. Did you?
No, we had one game against each other later, where nothing happened, and then I think he was hurt for the last game we played. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't overly happy with that fight either. Like, you kind of jumped me and then just kind of pushed me into the net, and we fell over. And Montreal fans are going crazy. But hey, I got 2 more years on the contract, so we got lots of time.
For sure. Speaking of coming into Toronto and being on this contract, you get a chance to play with Auston Matthews, 69 rips this year. What was it like behind the scenes that the normal person can't really see from that guy and how he goes about his business?
Oh man, just like the stuff he does, and I feel like I say this about every superstar I've ever played. I said this about Crosby when, he started, putting it off the back of goalies from behind the net. And he's like, oh, that was lucky. And then you start seeing him do it in practice. He's like, well, maybe that wasn't so much luck. Like, this guy actually does that. But like Matty's the same way. Like his shot is, I don't know where he was working on his shot when I was younger. Like, I don't know where that coach was for me, because he puts it on a pin. He can put it anywhere. There could be no room there, and he's putting it there. How many times did he score from the goal line in the corner? He had that stretch where he did it, I think, 2 or 3 times in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
It's not by accident. Like, those guys like that, like they hone in on their craft and they can do that. And, you just notice that about Matty. He's got the best shot I've ever seen. And I don't understand, growing up in Scottsdale, who's teaching him that. I grew up in Winnipeg. Like, that's the mecca of hockey. I should be having that shot. But, here I'm grinding, fighting guys, and he's scoring 70. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on.
Oh man, I just, even looking back at that season, I've been covering the Leafs for a while. I couldn't believe it. Like, he was that close to 70 and just he can't be stopped. Lastly, I just wanted to ask you about leadership. I think it's underrated what you bring to the team off the ice, in terms of unity and bringing the team together. How much pride do you take in sort of being that guy in the room as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's a big part of what I want to bring to teams. I don't play on the power play. I don't play on the penalty kill. I don't play 20 minutes a night. So, besides the fighting and the hits and the energy, you have to chip in other ways. And being a guy off the ice is something I've always prided myself in. Being a guy that young guys can come talk to when they have problems, always prided myself in that. I always want to make, I think when I grew up, it was kind of the end of the era-ish of, those vets kind of really hammering on the rookies and making them feel uncomfortable for a couple of years. And, times have changed, and I don't agree with how they've changed, but, you can't treat rookies like that anymore. They're a little too sensitive. So you got to treat them a little differently. And I like to make sure everybody's welcome. And it's just like a lot of the vets on this team do. I'm not the only one that does that, but, because of the role I play on the ice, I have to do other things off the ice.
Well, Revo, we've been trying to link up for a while. Really, really appreciate you taking some time. Congrats on the new partnership, man. And we'll talk soon. Have a great summer, okay?
Appreciate you guys too.
Thanks, Revo.
Take it easy.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.